You have the phone you once dreamed of. You wear the clothes you used to admire on others. You finally sit in rooms you once prayed to enter. And yet, deep inside, there's this silence, a kind of ache you can't explain. You laugh in public but feel blank when you're alone. You tick off goals, but your soul feels untouched. You love people, but still feel unseen. Why? Why does the emptiness return even after we get everything? Because no matter how much you have, if you don't know who you are, if you don't sit with your own silence, if you don't look within, you'll forever chase in circles, mistaking movement for meaning. Buddha left his palace not because he was poor, but because even with gold, luxury, and comfort, his soul whispered, "This is not it." And if you're honest, yours has whispered that too. Let me guide you through the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. This is not just a video. This is a mirror for your inner world. I gently ask you, don't just watch, feel every word, because somewhere in this story, you may finally understand why you feel empty, even when you have everything. Now, let's begin. In a city that never sleeps, where dreams are measured in digits and worth is weighed in likes, there lived a man named Aaron, admired, followed, and envied by many. To the outer world, Aaron was the definition of success. He had everything that was supposed to make one feel whole. A luxurious apartment with glass walls that touched the sky, a car that hummed the tune of prestige, closets filled with curated fashion stitched with status, a calendar stacked with meetings, invitations, and attention. People praised him, companies wanted him, screens displayed him. But inside, Aaron was quietly drowning in a silence he couldn't name. He smiled in public, but his heart rarely moved. He laughed at dinners, but the sound never reached his chest. Each morning, he woke up to a routine that felt perfectly hollow. Each night, he stared at the ceiling, wondering, why do I feel so empty when I have everything? He had once believed that success was the answer, that if he just worked harder, bought more, looked better, loved louder, the hollowness inside would eventually fill itself. But it didn't. In fact, the more he accumulated, the more he felt lost in the noise. The deeper he sank into material abundance, the more he forgot the sound of his own soul. It was as if life had become a beautiful banquet, but he couldn't taste a single thing. And yet, like most people do, he kept going. He chased new experiences. He posted smiles on screens. He added more to his to-do list. He surrounded himself with people to avoid being alone. But in the silence between moments, in the gaps between applause, the ache would return. A formless, quiet ache. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. A subtle whisper saying, this is not it. Not depression, not sadness. Something more existential. A quiet scream in the soul, drowned by the world's applause. That night, as rain softly kissed the city lights and the noise of the outer world began to blur into static, Aaron felt something rise within him. Not fear, not pain, but a yearning. A yearning that had no name, but felt ancient. A longing to return to something he had never known and yet always missed. Without knowing why, he put on his coat, left his home, and began to walk. Not towards something, but away from everything. The city lights slowly faded behind him. Concrete turned to soil, and sound turned to stillness. The path ahead was dim, unfamiliar, but for the first time in years, Aaron felt lighter. Not happy, but less heavy. The road led him to the edge of the city, a quiet forest that most had long forgotten. No networks here, no reception, no distractions. Just the breath of the earth and the silence of truth. As the mist hung low and moonlight danced on dew, Aaron noticed a soft glow ahead. A fire, small and steady, beside which sat an old man in worn robes, his eyes reflecting the stars, his presence unmoved by time. The man said nothing. He simply poured tea into a weathered wooden cup, but the cup had a long crack down its side, and the tea spilled out, quietly, endlessly. Aaron watched, puzzled, and after a moment, he broke the silence. "Master, the cup is broken. Why do you keep pouring?" The old man looked up, his gaze not piercing, but penetrating. He smiled gently and said, "Ah, the same reason you keep pouring life into yourself." Aaron froze. You pour success, praise, luxury, love, desire, yet you remain thirsty. Because the cup, you, has cracks, invisible wounds, forgotten hurts, false stories. No matter how much you pour in, it leaks out through the parts you've never faced. Aaron lowered his head. He felt something crack, not in shame, but in recognition. This stranger had just named the ache he could never describe. The master continued, "Most people don't need more. They need less. Less noise, less running, less pretending. They need to stop and listen. You've mistaken fullness for noise. Real fulfillment doesn't shout, it whispers." Aaron looked down at his own hands, the same hands that signed deals, held trophies, tapped screens. Now they trembled, because for once they weren't reaching for anything. In that moment, the forest didn't feel empty. It felt honest, no mirrors, no performance, just a broken cup, and a truth too ancient to explain. The forest air grew still, but inside Aaron something began to move. Not like emotion, but like a tide quietly shifting direction. The master placed the empty, cracked cup between them and said, "Do you know why you've been empty all this time?" Aaron shook his head. "Because you never allowed yourself to truly be empty. You feared the hollow feeling inside, but that hollow was never the problem. Your running was. Emptiness is not absence, it's space, and space is the only place where truth can enter." Aaron sat in silence. No reply came from his mind, only stillness from his soul. The master continued, his voice softer than wind. "The world taught you to add. Add things, add titles, add people, add noise. But the path to peace is the opposite. It is subtraction, it is letting go. When you subtract what you are not, what remains is what you always were." At that moment, Aaron didn't feel like a businessman. Not a brand, not a role, just a being, a witness, a presence. His heart wasn't filled by words, but by the gentle permission to simply be, unjudged, unfixed, unbusy. The fire crackled, a pond reflected the moon, and something inside him, something old, buried, breathed for the first time in years. The master poured no more tea. The cracked cup stayed empty. But somehow, Aaron felt more whole than he ever did in all his full rooms. Before Aaron left, he asked the master, "What should I do now?" The master smiled. "Don't do, just be. Sit with your emptiness. It will teach you what no book, no person, no success ever could. That what you're looking for is not outside. It never was." Epilogue. That night, Aaron didn't return to his penthouse. He didn't open his phone. He didn't check his messages. He sat by the pond, in stillness, in presence, in peace. And for the first time in his life, his soul didn't whisper, "This is not it." Instead, it softly said, "Welcome back." Moral of the story: you don't need more, you need less. Less of what distracts, more of what's real. And what's real has always lived within you, waiting in silence, patient, undemanding, eternal. If somewhere, in the quiet of this story, you recognized your own journey, if you felt why that emptiness never left, even when you had everything the world told you to chase, then maybe, just maybe, you've taken your first step inward. And if this message touched something within you, don't keep it to yourself. There's someone out there, just like you, quietly drowning in their own success. So if you truly felt the depth of this, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to this channel. Because your one small gesture allows us to keep creating content that nourishes your soul and helps you grow on your spiritual journey.